Could Ukraine actually reclaim Crimea soon? Experts say the balance of power is shifting, and what happens next could shock the world. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving into one of the most pressing questions in global politics. Is Ukraine really about to take back Crimea? Crimea has been a focal point of conflict since 2014, when Russia annexed the peninsula. Its strategic location, access to the Black Sea, and military infrastructure make it highly significant for both nations. For years, Ukraine has been planning ways to reclaim its territory, from strengthening its military to seeking international support. Recent reports suggest that Ukraine has intensified its intelligence operations in Crimea and launched small-scale attacks to test Russian defenses. Meanwhile, Russia continues to fortify its positions, building new bases, deploying advanced missile systems, and using Crimea as a hub for its naval operations. Analysts are divided. Some believe Ukraine could mount a surprise operation, especially as Russia faces logistical and economic pressures. Others warn that a full-scale reconquest could trigger a dangerous escalation. Today, we will break down the military, political, and strategic factors surrounding this issue. By the end, you'll have a clear understanding of what's really happening in Crimea, why it matters globally, and whether a Ukrainian comeback is realistic or just speculation. Stay tuned, because the next 10 minutes will uncover shocking insights that most mainstream media is not telling you. Crimea's strategic importance cannot be overstated. It is home to the Black Sea Fleet, giving Russia naval dominance in the region. Losing Crimea would weaken Moscow's position and potentially shift the power balance in Eastern Europe. For Ukraine, regaining Crimea is not only a matter of territorial integrity, but also a national symbol. Militarily, the peninsula is heavily fortified with radar systems, air defense missiles, and coastal artillery. Ukraine, however, has been modernizing its forces with Western weaponry, drones, and intelligence support from NATO countries. Recent drone strikes and sabotage operations indicate a shift from defensive to offensive strategies. Experts highlight that Ukraine's success depends on timing, precision, and coordination, as any large-scale assault could trigger international consequences. Meanwhile, Russia is grappling with stretched supply lines and internal political challenges, which may create vulnerabilities. Economically, Crimea is costly to maintain, and Russian resources are already stretched thin. Political analysts suggest that Russia may be forced to negotiate if military pressure intensifies. The situation is further complicated by international law and the global community's stance. Any Ukrainian attempt must balance military gains with diplomatic fallout. As tensions escalate, every move by Ukraine and Russia is being monitored closely, making this a highly volatile scenario. In the coming sections, we will explore the tactics, risks, and geopolitical calculations that could determine the future of Crimea. Ukraine's military tactics have evolved significantly since the start of the conflict. Initially, Ukraine focused on defensive operations, holding key territories and protecting its borders. But now, evidence suggests a shift toward targeted offensive measures. Drones, precision artillery, and cyber operations are central to Ukraine's strategy. Reports indicate that Ukrainian forces are using intelligence gathered from satellites, informants, and electronic surveillance to identify weak points in Russian defenses. One of the main tactics is disruption, attacking supply lines, radar stations, and communication hubs to weaken Russian control. Another approach is psychological operations, spreading misinformation, creating uncertainty, and lowering Russian troop morale. Ukraine's Western partners are supplying advanced weapons, training, and intelligence support, which has increased Ukraine's operational capabilities. Russia, on the other hand, is focused on reinforcing strongholds and maintaining a high state of readiness. But experts note signs of strain. Local resistance and sabotage by pro-Ukrainian sympathizers in Crimea could also play a crucial role in any operation. Analysts warn, however, that even a small misstep could escalate the conflict dramatically. Understanding Ukraine's tactics is key to predicting if a reclaiming operation is feasible. In upcoming sections, we will dive into the role of drones, international support, and potential scenarios for Crimea's future, examining both risks and opportunities. Drones have become a game changer in modern warfare, and Ukraine has been utilizing them effectively in Crimea. Small, tactical drones are used for reconnaissance, targeting artillery strikes, and disrupting enemy operations. Larger strike drones can hit critical infrastructure like radar stations, fuel depots, and command centers without risking soldiers' lives. These operations are meant to weaken Russian defensive capabilities over time. Satellite imagery and cyber intelligence complement drone operations, giving Ukraine a detailed view of Russian troop movements. Russian forces are aware of these threats and have deployed counter-drone measures, including electronic jamming and anti-drone systems. Despite these defenses, Ukraine continues to innovate, making small but cumulative gains. Analysts point out that repeated drone strikes can lower morale, create logistical headaches, and force Russia to redistribute forces, which may open opportunities elsewhere. Furthermore, drone technology is scalable, meaning Ukraine can sustain operations even with limited resources. These tactics also send a message to the international community about Ukraine's capabilities and determination to reclaim Crimea. Understanding how drones impact the battlefield gives us insight into the evolving nature of the conflict and the realistic possibilities of a Ukrainian operation. In the next section, we'll explore Russia's countermeasures and how both sides are preparing for the next phase of confrontation. Russia's response to Ukrainian operations in Crimea has been strategic yet defensive. Moscow has invested heavily in fortifying the peninsula with missile systems, coastal defenses, and radar networks. The Black Sea Fleet remains a key asset, and Russia uses it to monitor and potentially block Ukrainian advances. Additionally, Russia has implemented strict security measures, increased troop rotations, and deployed specialized units trained in counter-insurgency and drone warfare. Analysts suggest that Russia's main goal is deterrence, preventing Ukraine from launching a full-scale assault. However, there are signs of strain. Supply lines from mainland Russia to Crimea are long and vulnerable, making it difficult to sustain prolonged operations. Sanctions, economic pressures, and domestic issues also limit Moscow's flexibility. Russian forces must remain vigilant against both conventional attacks and asymmetric operations like sabotage or drone strikes. International observers warn that any Ukrainian offensive carries high risks, including escalation beyond Crimea. Meanwhile, political negotiations and international pressure remain crucial factors, as external support for Ukraine could influence Russia's strategic calculations. Understanding Russia's capabilities and limitations is essential for evaluating whether Crimea can realistically be retaken. The next section will explore geopolitical factors, alliances, and the role of global powers in shaping the future of Crimea. Geopolitics plays a decisive role in the Crimea conflict. Ukraine cannot act in isolation. International support is key. Western nations, including the US, UK, and EU countries, have provided military aid, intelligence, and training to bolster Ukraine's capabilities. Sanctions on Russia aim to create economic pressure, indirectly affecting its ability to sustain operations in Crimea. NATO's involvement, while limited in direct combat, serves as a deterrent against broader escalation. Meanwhile, countries like China and Turkey may influence outcomes through diplomacy or trade policies. Russia, on the other hand, seeks to maintain its strategic foothold and deter international interference. Analysts point out that any military move by Ukraine is likely calculated against the potential for global backlash or escalation. The United Nations, international law, and global opinion also shape the environment, as a large-scale offensive could spark debate over legality and humanitarian impacts. Ukraine's planners must balance military ambition with diplomatic prudence. Understanding these geopolitical dynamics helps explain why reclaiming Crimea is not just a matter of force, but also strategy, timing, and international pressure. In the following sections, we will examine potential scenarios for Crimea, from small tactical victories to a full-scale liberation, and assess the realistic chances for each outcome. Scenario analysis is key to understanding Crimea's future. Experts outline several possibilities. 1. Ukraine might focus on targeted strikes and gradual disruption, wearing down Russian defenses over time. 2. A full-scale amphibious or airborne operation could be attempted, but risks massive casualties and international escalation. 3. Ukraine could rely on political pressure and negotiations, leveraging military successes to gain concessions without a direct assault. Each scenario comes with unique risks and rewards. Small-scale operations might succeed in creating pressure, but won't immediately reclaim territory. Large-scale operations could change the balance, but risk catastrophic escalation, potentially drawing in NATO or other nations. Analysts emphasize timing. Ukraine may act when Russia is most vulnerable, possibly during internal political turmoil, economic strain, or military redeployments. Another factor is morale. Both Ukrainian forces and pro-Ukrainian elements in Crimea could play pivotal roles. Russian morale, strained by prolonged conflict and sanctions, could influence outcomes as well. Scenario planning highlights that reclaiming Crimea is a complex operation, not merely a military challenge. In the next section, we will explore historical parallels, lessons from other conflicts, and what they reveal about the feasibility of Ukraine's ambitions in Crimea. History provides valuable lessons for understanding Crimea. Conflicts involving territorial disputes, annexations, or reclaiming land often show that success depends on timing, strategy, and international support. For example, historical campaigns where smaller forces reclaimed territory relied on surprise, mobility, and alliances. In Crimea's case, Ukraine faces a fortified opponent, but benefits from modern technology, Western support, and detailed intelligence. Comparisons to past conflicts also highlight risks. Prolonged fighting can lead to humanitarian crisis, international condemnation, and unintended escalation. Analysts note that political symbolism, like reclaiming a territory considered national heritage, can motivate both military and civilian participants. However, historical examples also warn against underestimating the opponent. Russia has vast resources, military experience, and strategic depth. Additionally, geography matters. Crimea's coastline, peninsulas, and fortified cities make direct assault challenging. Thus, history suggests that Ukraine's strategy will likely be incremental, combining targeted operations, cyber and drone warfare, and international pressure rather than a single decisive attack. Understanding these lessons is crucial for evaluating whether Ukraine's ambitions are realistic or overly optimistic. In the next section, we will examine the role of intelligence, espionage, and local support in shaping the chances of success in Crimea. Intelligence and local support are pivotal in any attempt to reclaim Crimea. Ukraine has reportedly increased its espionage operations, gathering information from satellite imagery, intercepted communications, and local informants. Accurate intelligence allows Ukrainian forces to identify weak points, plan precise strikes, and avoid unnecessary losses. Local support, including pro-Ukrainian sympathizers within Crimea, can assist in logistics, reconnaissance, and sabotage. These efforts amplify Ukraine's operational capacity beyond traditional military means. Analysts suggest that coordinated intelligence-driven operations could disrupt Russian command, reduce morale, and create openings for larger maneuvers. However, risks are high. Exposure of operatives could lead to retaliation, escalating conflict, or civilian casualties. Russia has its own intelligence network, actively seeking to neutralize threats and maintain control. Balancing aggression with precision and leveraging local intelligence without triggering civilian backlash is essential. In the final section, we will assess the overall probability of Ukraine reclaiming Crimea, considering military readiness, strategic innovation, geopolitical support, and historical lessons. This comprehensive view provides a realistic understanding of what may happen next in this high-stakes conflict. In conclusion, Ukraine's prospects of reclaiming Crimea are a mix of hope, strategy, and significant risk. Militarily, Ukraine has modernized forces, leveraged drones, and improved intelligence operations. Strategically, timing, surprise, and coordination are critical. Geopolitically, international support, sanctions, and diplomacy shape the environment. History shows that territorial recovery is rarely simple and often costly. Local support and intelligence give Ukraine an advantage, but Russian fortifications, military strength, and geopolitical clout remain formidable. Analysts agree that gradual, targeted operations are the most feasible path, while large-scale assaults carry enormous risks. The coming months will likely reveal incremental advances, probing operations, and shifts in morale on both sides. For viewers, the key takeaway is that Crimea remains a highly contested region with global implications. Ukraine's ambitions are real, but execution requires precision, patience, and favorable circumstances. Will Ukraine succeed? Only time, strategy, and international dynamics will tell. If you found this analysis insightful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to stay updated on the latest developments in Crimea and Ukraine. Share your thoughts below. Do you think Ukraine can reclaim Crimea soon? Or is it a long-term struggle?